Hello and welcome. In this video I'm showing you how to make a very simple and easy paper peony which you can use to apply to presents or anywhere else that you like around in your home. You can download the template for making the paper peony. The link is below. It can also be found on my website at felicitycook.co. To create a paper peony, these are the things that you're going to need. You'll want to download my template sheet. The link to download is below this video because they are our petal shapes and our stamens. I have two different coloured paper / cardstock, one which is going to be for my petals and the other which is going to be for the centre stamens. I then just have a pair of scissors which are appropriate for cutting card, and I have my hot glue gun. And then the purpose that we're going to be doing with this peony today is I'm going to be applying it to a present. So I have my present ready to go, and that's just off to the side. So the first thing I want to do is I need to cut out all of the different elements for my flower. So I need all of the petals and the center stamen piece. As you can see on my template, there are two different size petals and three different shapes. So we need 3 of the small ones, and then we need 10 of the larger ones, and each of the larger ones has 2 sets of 5. Their center cuts are a little bit different in height. So you can either print this directly onto the cardstock that you're going to be using and cut them out one by one, or what I'm going to show you as well is that you can cut one of each size and then use that as a template to cut out your petals. Remember to cut around all of the petal shapes and also cut along those straight cut lines in the middle, down the bottom of each petal. So I've cut out all of my petals and my center stamens, and I now have 13 petals, 3 of the smaller one and 10 of the bigger one. As I said, each of them has a different length in their center cut, and the reason for that is the shorter the cut, the tighter your petals will cup. The longer the cut, the more open your petals will be, and that's why we have a varying grade of cuts, because we want our flower, each petal layer, to be a little bit more open. I've also cut my stamens and down all the lines, so I have a little fringe. So the first thing we're going to want to do, my hot glue gun is on. Remember, if you are doing this with children, it is best that the adult is the one who uses the hot glue gun. The glue does get quite hot and it can burn your fingers if you get too close to it for too long. So I'm going to take my center, and either using the blade of your scissors as you would do with ribbon, or just with your fingernail, you're actually just going to curl along the uncut part of that centerpiece. I'm then going to go from one end and I'm going to curl and pinch that first part and roll the center stamen up, and so that it rolls into a little roll of fringy bits. When I reach the very end, I'm going to apply just a little bit of hot glue here on the end and tuck the end across. That centerpiece can now be frilled out, and we're going to set it aside while we put our petals together. So we're going to take each of our petal sets, and I'm going to start with the smallest ones, and we're going to, holding them upside down, we're going to want to be cupping our petals across. So the two halves where we've cut in that split are going to fold over on each other to give us a cupped petal. So I'm going to add a little bit of glue just on one side of that split, fold them together and hold it so that the glue takes hold. I'm going to do the same thing with the other 2 small ones, and then repeat the process for my other, the 10 other larger petals. So I've now glued all of my petals. They've been cupped into their petal shape. To give each petal a more natural look, I'm then going to take each one, and you can and they don't all have to be the same, you can do a little bit different on each petal. Just gently bend over some of the edges of those petals to give that sort of ruffled effect. And repeat that for all of your petals. I've now frilled all of my paper petals so they'll have a slightly more natural feel to them. I now need to construct each layer of petals of our flower. So I'll start with my centers, and as I said, I've got 3 center petals. And if you look at flowers in the wild, they go around in a circle. So each in an overlapping circle. Sorry. So each petal will overlap the other one. So we want to keep that in mind as we're putting our petals together. So I'm going to take one of my center petals, and I'm going to add just a little bit of glue to one side. And take my next petal, keeping in mind that there's 3 of them, and I'm going to sit that inside there and glue them together. With my third one, it needs to go over the top of the last one, but underneath the first one. So I'm going to apply a little bit of glue to the left-hand side of the last one, and a little bit underneath on the right-hand side of the first one, so that they glue together. And I'm going to take my petal and I'm going to wedge it in so that it's going over and under. And secure in place. That's the center, my center petals. With my next layer, I'm going to do the same thing, but obviously this time I have 5. So I want to think about almost like there's a star shape, 5-pointed star shape going on as I'm securing my petals to each other. So I'm not going to take them, and I'm not going to be securing them as openly as I did with this first ones, because if I do that, I'm not going to fit all 5 of them into my layer of petals. So as I'm going around, I do want to ensure that I am securing them closer together, so that we have a bigger circle that's coming together. And again, each one is going to overlap the one before, except the last one is going to fit under and over at the same time. So I'm going to repeat the process that I did with the small one and do it with the middle layer. I now have my second layer of petals. And again, I'm going to repeat the process for my last layer, remembering again to have that open circle all the way around and overlapping the last one at the very end. I now have all of the components of my flower, and all we need to do now is put it together. So I'm going to start with my biggest one, and I'm going to apply some glue into the middle here so that we can secure our middle layer inside there. Now when you think about a flower, when you want to place it inside, you don't want to match up all the petals with the ones before. You want to aim for each one to fit in the gaps between the layers under the layer that is underneath it. So when I apply, I'm going to make sure that the top of this petal is in the gap between the other 2 of the layer below. To apply my center stamens, I'm actually going to add a little bit of glue to the bottom of our rolled piece of paper. I can then flip it over and secure it into the middle of my flower. Allow the glue to set. You can then frill out that center a little bit more. And if you need to, you can tweak any of your petals that may not be as ruffled as you like. And that's the basic construct of our paper peony. To secure it to our present, I'm going to bring my package back in here, which I have wrapped quite nicely, and I've tied it with a bow. And all I'm going to do is apply some glue. You can either apply it to the bottom of the flower or onto the package, wherever you want it to go. I'm actually going to be securing it to the middle of the bow so that it sits like that. So I'm going to apply some glue to the string here. A nice blob so that it's going to stick. And then I'm going to secure my flower onto the glue. And now I have a beautifully finished present with its paper peony on top, which just happens to match the wrapping paper that I've used. So now you can do that, and you can surprise your mum or your sister or your friend or anyone you like, and add a little bit of an extra touch to their presents. Enjoy!